Hey, everybody. Welcome to the B2B Revenue Leadership Podcast. Hey, what we do on this podcast is talk about what B2B sales and marketing leaders, operators, and experts are doing today to really break through and grow their businesses at exponential levels. Let's get it in the interview. At the end, I'll give you an update on my courses, and you can check out my website at b2brevenue.com, and it's Brian G. Burns on LinkedIn. Hey, Cathy, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. Really been, as I told you, I really enjoy watching all of the videos that you do. And so I'm really happy to be here today. I'm Cathy Hammond. I am CEO of SalesFit Staffing Solutions based in California. And I specialize and it's a relatively narrow niche in the placement of sales professionals, everything from, VP on down to an individual contributor, but within the workforce solutions and business solutions. So it's really for the intangibles. Okay. And so that's our specialty.
And how'd you get into this? Did you do it somewhere else first? Or?
Yeah, no, I have a long career in sales. Yeah. And, and I've had the opportunity to sell both product as well as service. And there is a huge difference between the two. Yeah. And I found that really my sweet spot was really in the intangibles. But then I started watching what, the other people that were being hired into the various companies and their backgrounds, and to see their level of success based upon their experience. So, and then of course, as I transitioned later into talent acquisition and employee selection, and I had worked for one of the largest selection testing companies in the U.S. For several years, and working on talent acquisition programs with Fortune 500 companies, large municipalities, so on, and really seeing like the science behind employee selection, yeah, and then combining that with sales experience and understanding really what makes a successful salesperson. So that's how I've transitioned into all of this.
Well, it must be a great market right now, isn't it? Or I guess it depends how you look at it, right?
Yeah, well, companies are always looking for great talent, good people. Market, bad market. Yeah. But what we're finding, of course, too, is that there's a talent scarcity. And some of the companies are still operating from a talent surplus standpoint. And they shouldn't be doing that, because the really good ones, they're not on the market for very long. No. Working with one of a client, and one of the people that I had contacted, who had kind of said, well, that doesn't really interest me, the position that I was talking to him about. And within 2 weeks, he was somewhere else. Yeah. So it's like, you've got to move on, cream rises to the top and people do notice them. So.
And what are you seeing companies doing? Because maybe it's just the markets that I see, but they seem to be hiring a lot of entry-level people. The sales development role kind of gone mad. Is that in your space as well, or?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. But we don't place these sales development reps, but a lot of companies are, of course, hiring them so that they can give a head start to their sales team. So because they're the ones that are, getting the leads and, and doing, helping them to be able to get in front of customers.
So what makes a great client for you on the hiring side, not the rep side?
Someone who is interested and also understands the performance metrics of that particular role. It's also important too that they be realistic in what the right.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I have to tell them, listen, I don't recruit magicians. I recruit salespeople, and so I dig deep with them on how they're actually arriving at their numbers. So that we can really understand, does that person that I'll be talking to, do they have the skill set to make 100 calls a day or per week? Or is it that they're just, fielding, calls and meetings that were generated by an SDR? So it's really a client who is, realistic about what that role involves, but also because the performance metrics are so important, and it's also legally defensible for the clients as well. Because if that person doesn't meet that criteria after a period of time, well, it was given to them in the very beginning. So there are no surprises.
And are people caring more about those activity metrics versus results, outcome, revenue?
The performance metrics drive the revenue. So if they understand that it takes so many contacts to be able to get in front of a client and then be able to, get to a proposal stage, and actually it's really walking them through the pipeline stages, and that's the performance metrics. Some are a little naive about that, and then of course there are some that are very sophisticated and really understand that. But I help them through that process. So it's not just, here, I'm going to send you a bunch of resumes, but rather that, we really look at people who have already have the ability to, or have been doing that kind of work already.
And what do you hear from them as far as how they characterize the people they're looking for? Like I use A player, or some people say challenger or maverick or eagle, or
I don't know what does a maverick look like? What does an eagle look like? What does a ninja look like? I know what a ninja looks like, but not in sales. It's that, no, not so much. What they're looking for is they're like, I want someone who's going to sell. Right. And while that sounds, like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. It's surprising at how few people in sales know how to sell.
Right.
In fact, Herb Greenberg, the founder of Caliper Corporation, and developed, assessments for the sales industry and others. He wrote a book many, many years ago, and it was just like something that just stuck with me from all these years. And he said that 80% of people in sales shouldn't be. Of the remaining 20%, 80% are selling the wrong thing. And, but people that aren't really familiar, like in the managerial roles and, maybe if the CEO level, if they've never been selling, they just think that we're all in one bucket, right. And that if you're good, you're going to be able to sell under any conditions.
Anything.
Yes. But, I worked many years ago, I worked for a wholesale alarm monitoring company. And I would sell directly to alarm companies throughout the United States. But we also had an authorized dealer program, kind of like ADT. What they were doing with the people, some of the companies that were incredibly successful at doing this, they had their team of people. They were called door knockers. And these are people going out knocking on doors and selling an alarm system. I'm sure you've seen that with pest control and things like that. And that is a very specific skill in sales.
Yes.
It's a completely different type of person. I couldn't do it. I also couldn't sell cars. I can't do one-off. I have to have that relationship building and really understanding what the challenges are. And that's where I shine. And it's really an understanding where that person really is going to be skilled in the sales process.
So do you hear more of, I want somebody out of this industry who knows how to sell to this type of persona? Or do you hear, I want the hunter, the grinder,
everyone wants a hunter. I've never heard anyone say, give me a farmer.
Give someone really laid back.
Sorry, what they're saying, yes, that they want someone who's in the industry. And that's not necessarily the right choice all the time. They are rare. And the ones that really want to do it. I hear people say, oh, I love making cold calls. I love picking up the phone.
Saturday, that's all I do.
Yeah. I love rejection. And but there are some people that, that they know that's part of the job. They just do it and they do it very well. But it's not like the thing that they aspire to. They know they have to get through that to get to the sale.
Right.
So that's what we're looking for.
Now, on the other side, on the candidate side, what do you look for on the selling skills? Not just the background, but the selling skills. What do you see as the differentiators between the people is just going to, crush the interview?
They know the right questions to ask, to be able to really uncover what's going on, and being able to assemble. It's like I see how, like companies will have multiple things that they can offer to a client, but too many people I've seen will take all of it and they'll enter a presentation and say, let me show you every single thing here. And some of it is maybe not even relevant. And so the prospect is looking at that and saying, they're not really understanding what's going on here and being able to help me. That's the inexperienced salesperson. They've memorized everything that the company taught them, and now they're going to throw everything out there. You have to be selective in what it is that you're showing. It's like, you give them just enough to make the sale. Don't give them nothing else. Otherwise, you're going to talk yourself out of it.
And a job interview is a very different type of sales call, right? And,
absolutely.
And sometimes I used to go on job interviews just to stay in shape. Because if you go 2 years without going on an interview, it's a completely you got to understand, you got 1 hour to convince them that you're the person.
Right. Yes, exactly.
And a lot of managers, it was a lot like, I don't know if you ever read Malcolm Gladwell's It's All in the Handshake.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Right. Where it is he feels it's 100% emotional decision. Meaning it's how well they get along.
And that is like the worst predictor
of anything. You're not dating.
Yes. Right. Yes, exactly. And in fact, having worked in employee selection and working with, numerous IO psychologists and with assessments, and that, of course, interviewing is, the least predictive of all things that you could do to hire someone, right. Because you bring bias to the conversation, and we like people who are just like us. And so we're looking for that. And if they don't look like us, they don't act like us, then we feel, okay, that's, not going to be a match here, when in fact, that's probably exactly who they need, that person, because they bring a different perspective to what's going on. Because if everything was working so brilliantly, then they'd be able to just, have salespeople lining up, around the block. That's
and most sales managers really aren't that great of judge of prediction of success in the reps, are they?
No, not at all. Yeah, and it has the lowest validity coefficient of any means to hire someone.
Right, and and I always found that they never read the resume.
Right.
And I turned mine into should have been a spreadsheet, year, base, target, percentage, deal sizes.
Right. They
didn't care about anything else.
And, and that's how it should be. That's a really good point, because so many people don't put their resume, they regurgitate their job description.
Who cares? Right.
Yes, exactly.
I was responsible for the Southeast. Right.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They want to know, how much did you sell? What was what were the profits? What were, all of this? Yes, exactly. And what size, companies are you selling to, and which industries? And that's really, if you just can bullet point that on your resume, then, you've got a leg up on most everyone. I read a lot of resumes, and they're
pretty boring, aren't they?
Well, but salespeople aren't necessarily, great resume writers.
Right.
And that, that's the other thing too. And I encourage a lot of people to get a professionally designed resume.
Yes.
So that you're really organizing the information so people can just go bullet point down on that. In addition to what I do is that, we prepare a candidate summary that accompanies the resume. The candidate summary tells the candidate's story, and really that's something that, it's not going to be seen on the resume. They're not going to get that from that. And understanding why someone has taken this particular role, where they're going with that, and, and why it was significant. So a candidate summary is also really helpful.
And how do you coach reps before they go into the interview? Because when you haven't been on a job interview in a couple of years, you're doing well.
Right.
This but you got a new comp plan, a new territory.
Right.
The signs are that you're not going to do as well this year as you did last year for mathematical reasons, not because of your ability. And you're looking at other things. What I've seen a lot is they come in too confident. They don't need the job. They want you to sell them, but that's not what a job interview is.
Yeah, but a lot of that is happening right now.
Yeah, isn't it?
The really good ones are, yeah. I mean, if I contact them and they'll say, first thing, what's the comp package? And I said, it doesn't matter if it's not the right role for you. And if it is, it also doesn't matter, because if you're so good, then you're going to be able to get the money that you want. Yeah. But they just start off, and I think that maybe is a little bit has gone to their heads, especially as they're really realizing like their first successes in sales at a company, and so it's I think they're a little bit, I don't want to say arrogant, but they're very confident.
Yeah.
And there's it's the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah,
right. I call it the B player trap. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The more talented, the more skilled you are, probably the more doubtful you are about your abilities.
Yes.
The ones who are really, thinking that they're great. Yeah. Maybe not so much.
Well, also you got to think of where we are from an economy standpoint. This is not 2009. So if you were making $500,000 in 2009, it's very different than today.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
You got the best economy in the history of economies. So,
well, and that's another thing too. And of course I owe this to Lou Adler and his teachings. It's, we're not recruiting for a lateral move. We're doing it to be able to move someone into another role. And that's the other thing I try to get, clients to understand, that people don't, if they're doing well at one company, why just make the move over to do exactly what they're doing? Yeah. That doesn't make any sense. I get that that's why you want them, but so we look for people who have the potential to really be able to do that. We know they're going to be able to do the job. All they have to do is just have that opportunity. So it's really, we're looking for that skill set and the ambition in the process.
And how about as far as career planning for reps? What do you see people doing wrong? What would you recommend? Do you find any patterns? Yes,
you can see a lot of lateral move from company to company to company, and there could be a number of reasons for that. And the other thing too, I think, is that some people are they're quite content being an individual contributor. Yeah. They often make more money than their managers, right. and they're happy with that. And managing people is another skill set. It's the Peter principle, where you get advanced up to a point where you're no longer qualified. Yes, right. And and so just because someone is doing well in sales does not make them a good sales manager. Right. So it's a little bit tricky. In as much as you're advancing, you might, I'll see people, which, I see where they have potential. Well, they start off as a sales development rep, and then they, become like a junior account executive, and then they become a senior account executive, and then maybe become, something else at a much more elevated, individual contributor level. Yeah. That's showing a pattern of progression in their career. But if you want to be a sales manager, you really need to understand how to manage people.
And do you see people doing it more just because of ego versus ability? To be the manager, they think it's just because of that, you're controlling other people.
Oh yes, and I'm sure you've experienced that too.
Oh, I have.
Right.
Once or twice.
Yes. Yeah, there's always that person that just thinks, hey, yes, I'm the manager. I don't know what qualified them to be the manager.
Or they have an affinity for the metrics and the administration and the PowerPoint versus the the travel and the meetings and the deals.
Right. Yeah. I mean, personally for me, I mean, I love being in front of clients. I mean, I love doing that. Not too crazy about the whole management, of other people. Like if I had a full sales team, that, I think I might be overstepping a lot because I'd want to get into the mix. I see that too with other managers where, I've been on sales calls with a manager where they just like run over you while you're in the middle of a presentation.
Right. They hijack the meeting.
Absolutely. And, and it never turns out well when they do that, because you lose your momentum, you lose that
Right.
connection. Yeah.
Not only a cadence, but there's that opportunity at the end for a next step or a summary that you usually overrun because someone's yapping too much.
Right. Yes.
And they kind of want to show off, or they just want to run with it because they're used to running with it. And they're not used to sitting back and, being somebody to support you instead of, instruct you or give an example.
Yeah. Which is, why I would not invite them.
Well, I don't think anybody invites them.
Well,
nor do they wait for the invitation.
That's right.
And they all have their own style too, right?
Yes.
Some people are agenda people, other are rapport people, and and maybe they just want to see where the deal is, and compare it against what you've been saying and stuff.
Some people like to lecture.
Yes.
Not a good thing.
Yeah. Where do you see the profession going?
I think in probably maybe the last 20 or so years, it's, sales used to, like people say, oh, like a used car salesperson, and you had that, it just didn't have a great, reputation, in terms of being a salesperson. And primarily it's because I think I read somewhere that fewer than 100 colleges and universities in the US have formal sales programs in their school. Yeah. And so it unlike medicine or law or engineering and things like that, sales is like one of those professions of, well, if my acting career doesn't turn out, I'll go into sales. Yeah. If I can't find a job doing anything, that's interesting, I'll go into sales. Right. And so it's always been like a fallback position for a lot of people, which is why you have so many bad salespeople out there.
Right. I used to say it's like you either couldn't do anything else or you're money motivated.
Right.
Yeah. Because, I was an engineer and I found out how much the rep made, and I compared my workload
right. Yeah.
and my income, driving a Porsche, riding a bike to work.
Right. Exactly.
I can get my hair cut and I'm already given the presentation. I can get the meeting then. Right.
Right. Yeah.
But what I loved what you said, because I agree with it 100%, is that every manager has a rec for an A player, whether it's funded or not.
Right.
Every sales leader I talk to, they'd be like, we'll get the budget. Don't worry.
Right. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And even, the worst recession I went through was like after 9/11, because I was in the software space. Mm-hmm. It just quiet for 6 months. People didn't want to meet, talk, or anything. I still got interviews because people wanted to hire A players.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Their business stopped. It didn't slow down. It just stopped, and they were still hiring.
Yes. Yeah, no, exactly. And, and that's why, I think if, when you don't understand, like if you can't identify that what makes up a really good salesperson, it's going to be very difficult for you to be able, in recruiting, to be able to sell that, an A player. Right. Because you don't know what an A player looks like. And so, and everyone says, oh yes, again, when people are just putting in their job descriptions instead of, what they've accomplished. But, and in the past too, and one thing that I've done to get in front of people for myself is I take like a snippet of, my accomplishments in an email saying, this is what I'm looking at doing. Would this be, with this kind of skill set benefit your company?
Yeah.
Got called every single solitary time.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And the other thing I found was social proof, because if the network has your name as that person that does this thing really well, other than the reporter and the interview, I always found that your reputation precedes you.
Yes.
And I don't think a lot of reps invest any time in that.
Like in which way?
Either building their network up outside of what they get paid for. Maybe doing something on social or networking with other reps in the industry.
Yeah.
Thought leaders in the space, people who have platforms. And when you find out, oh, that's the person that sells this product into this market, they're the best. They've been around. And I kind of did that because I was the startup guy.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
When you're hiring that first round, they just got their A round and they're hiring 5 reps to cover the US. I was one of them. And it was not easy to sell, but easy to get the job. But then you'd hear a lot of people, and most of the sales reps that I met, they were what I call branded or portfolio reps. They come from a successful company. Doesn't mean they were successful. I always said they were the bat boy on the Yankees. It's like they didn't play the game. That bat boy is no better than the Pirates bat boy. Right.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Actually, and there's a real interesting study that was done a while back, and they took a top performer from like one of the, the hedge funds or one of the investment firms and moved them over to another company. And that other company, and the one they left, they were always in the top 10%, always just killing it. When they moved over to the competitor, where he was working, and he couldn't get out of the bottom 10%.
Yeah.
And they found too that a lot of it was with the team and when they moved the team over, he was able to get back up to the top.
Right.
So that's also, I think, really important that people don't understand the importance of having a really strong team.
The context of why they were successful.
Absolutely.
Was it the territory? And the old saying, the territory makes the rep. And it's like, if the territory makes the rep, I want the territory, not the rep.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Because anyone can take an order.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And there that company, that wholesale alarm monitoring company, they gave me one of the worst territories they thought in the country, and I just blew out the numbers because, well, one, I didn't know it was the worst territory. Yeah. So I think maybe that helped. And I just did what I do. So it's, but I really credit all of, almost all of it to the team. We had like an amazing team. I mean, and to this day, it's been many years, we're all still friends. Right. So I think that is really critical, that there's, that you mesh with the team.
And it is, because at each company and each product and each territory, the mix of what you do and how you spend your time is critical.
Right.
Yeah. And what type of reps are you looking for today?
Right now, looking for a lot in like workforce management platform. That for a rep out in the New York City area. That's one. Have others in out. Well, some are remote, so it could be really anywhere. Also, like in workforce solutions companies. And of course, everything changes, all the time. So
yeah. How about as far as clients?
What type of clients?
Yeah. What's your ideal client profile?
A company that is selling a business solution, an intangible, that, this is where they really need, some sophistication in their sales rep. And again, all levels, whether it be, for, vice president on down to an individual contributor.
Yeah. And how do you find it different recruiting for the different roles?
Um,
Who do
you
you
know,
speak to more comfortably?
um, in you mean for the actual candidates or?
Yeah. Like when you're recruiting a VP, it's very different than recruiting an account manager.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's really again going back to the performance metrics,
Yeah.
and so it's not. It's like I don't see the role. I see
What they
the
do.
requirements and what they
Yeah.
need to accomplish.
Yeah.
So it's so each is I mean there are different requirements, different expectations, but otherwise it's just title.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
Cool. And where can people get in touch with you?
They can they can go online to our website, which is salesfit with an F, staffing.com. And my email address is khammond@salesfitstaffing.com.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that interview. Hey, I want to make sure you're checking out b2brevenue.com. That is where you can get a free copy of an ebook that I did. It's a real ebook. It's not a fluff book. It shows and talks about how companies make buying decisions and how you can influence that from both a marketing and a sales standpoint, how to find all the people that are in the decision path and what they need to see, know, and touch and feel before they make a product selection. If your team needs some coaching, some help, some training, some systems, some processes that do work today, because we know what doesn't work, or you know what doesn't work, I'll show you what does work and how to connect and get into pretty much any account. It includes deal coaching and content community, and I can customize it for your particular company. Just go to b2brevenue.com, look under training, schedule a call with me. We can talk it over, or just sign up. You can pay per month or all at once, whichever makes most sense for your budget. Also, I put out videos pretty much daily on LinkedIn and on YouTube. On LinkedIn, it's Brian G. Burns, and on YouTube, it's Brian Burns Sales. Just search for that if you like to consume some video content. And if you see me on LinkedIn, please put a comment and a share and a like on some of the videos. I really appreciate it. I've got a company page for each podcast. This one, the B2B Revenue Leadership Podcast, where I put both content and humor videos out daily. And tell a friend about the podcast. Really appreciate you listening. Check out the show notes for all the partners and the connections you can make there, the coupon codes for the products to evaluate them, see if they're a right match for you. And we'll see you next time.